Where can you find a ghost town that looks like something out of a movie set and has remained much the same as when people moved away? We'll show you this gem of a place right now on Ghost Towns and More. In southwest New Mexico lies an out-of-the-way semi-ghost town that has as much of a turbulent history as a dramatic Hollywood Western movie. This location was the scene of many skirmishes between settlers and Native Americans, just like the plots of many Western sagas. People lost their lives here, and survival was a way of life. The most dramatic of stories was how interest in this location first started. Harry Pye was a freight hauler in the late 1870s and did contract work for the U.S. Army. He frequented this area, and because this was Apache territory, he knew the dangers in hauling cargo. During one of his trips in 1878, Harry spotted some Apache scouts. He slipped into a nearby canyon and hid behind some brush until the threat had passed. Something in a nearby creek caught his eye that looked like silver ore. He pocketed the rocks and kept his find secret as he made his way back home. As soon as he could, Harry had the rocks assayed and found they were rich in silver chloride. But instead of heading back out to stake a claim, he kept his discovery to himself until he finished his contract work with the Army. Painfully aware that attempting to work a mine under the dangerous threat of Indian raids, he sought out partners in whom he could trust that would be willing to help him stake a claim and enjoy the riches that he hoped would come. Henry and his new partners returned in 1879 and built a cabin to serve as a home and shelter while they started their newfound mining claim. As Harry had hoped, he found a rich vein not far from where he picked up his ore samples, and the men went to work. When they were only a few feet into their mine, they were ambushed by a group of hostile Apaches who were intent on killing them. The miners half expected such an attack and had weapons for defense, but when Harry drew his gun, it jammed and the warriors killed him. His two partners managed to escape and, under the cover of darkness, fled the area to the nearest town to relate the tragic news and also about their rich silver discovery. That's all it took for a rush of prospectors to swarm into the canyon, and within a year, a tent city had emerged. In honor of the original prospector, the settlement was named Pyetown. As the mining frenzy took off, the name was changed to Bromide. Then a more fitting term, Chloride, was chosen. By the next year, businesses opened by the dozens, including 9 saloons, a general store, restaurant, candy store, pharmacy, hotels, and at least one brothel. A town newspaper started up, operating through the 1880s. By 1890, the town population swelled to over 3,000. The new town of Chloride soon developed a reputation for being a rowdy town, but surprisingly, it had no jail. Instead, a large oak tree in the middle of Main Street was chosen with the ominous name of the Hanging Tree. There is no known record of any hanging that ever took place, but it did serve as a crime deterrent. Intoxicated troublemakers were chained to it until they sobered up. That tree still stands today. Not surprisingly, there was no church in Chloride, and some of the residents felt the atmosphere was so bad, they decided to move further down the canyon, setting up their own town of Winston. The threat of Apache raids did not decline with the growth of Chloride, so a town militia was formed in 1884. The men lined the canyon as a defense to protect the residents and miners. The armory building they used also still stands. The mines at Chloride extracted a respectable $500,000 in ore during its heyday, but the silver crash of 1893 spelled the end of its prosperity. People moved away, mines closed, and shops were boarded up. By 1900, the population tumbled to a mere 125. Instead of becoming a complete ghost, a handful of residents and descendants hung on, enjoying the quiet and remote solitude as a peaceful retirement community. The town store was shuttered for decades when some enthusiastic visitors decided to purchase it, finding everything inside as it had been left many years before. Today, it serves as a restored museum and has been open to visitors since the 1990s. Other buildings have been purchased and restored, so that now the town is preserved with a self-guided walking tour with interpretive signs. It has a rustic feel that has been part of the town's environment since it was established, minus the threat of Indian attacks. Henry Pye's cabin still stands, along with several other original buildings preserved as they once were. This historical town is a well-preserved treasure, certainly one you won't want to pass up.